we are joined by our Senior Advisor for Foreign Policy and National Security. We're going to get to those issues too with Iran again, and this new relationship with Saudi Arabia, the fact that Iran is shooting at U.S. troops again, and we're seeing this again, just kind of unraveling in the Middle East, of course, under the Biden administration, which is barely talking about it, doesn't really pay much attention to it. It seems like they have no idea how to handle it. But we were talking about this call for violence against Christians. And Rick, you've spoken out about it too. The press secretary, and we've been talking about it. You've been involved in press before. You've been a press spokesperson at the United Nations for the United States government. A part of your career for, I think, almost a decade. If any of us posted any kind of message, which none of us would.
Yeah, we're not horrible people.
Putting up a message with someone holding two guns and saying, if you don't agree with us, this is what happens. We're going to come shoot you. That has no place in our political discourse.
No, and I actually happen to be in Arizona as I'm talking to you right now, and I have to tell you that the people of Arizona are really concerned at what's happening. You've got Katie Hobbs, who is now the governor of Arizona. Her spokeswoman has literally tweeted out a picture of someone with two guns ready to shoot in response to the trans shooter in Nashville. Now, I know you guys are in Nashville. I'm here in Arizona. This is unacceptable. And the media here in Arizona have reported it as just, a controversy where Republicans are upset with the Democrat. Not shameful posting, talking about violence. I view this as a threat. I view this as the governor's spokeswoman saying more violence to come if we don't get our way. And there's no other interpretation of it.
And we've been, by all the experts have said, for all of us in Nashville who have kids in Christian schools, which we do, that these next 3 weeks are very important because of people that can be inspired to take the same exact kind of action based off, what they saw. So if they are political activists too, on whether it's the trans moves or something, that the target is going to be a similar target, right, which would be targeting Christians, which for some reason Joe Biden and our Attorney General just won't. If it was a synagogue, Rick, if it was a mosque, rightfully so, they would come out and condemn it as what it was. But because it's happens to be a church, we got to wait.
You'd have the ADL all over the news. You'd have all these organizations all over the news. It was synagogue, it was mosque, you have CARE, you have all of them coming out and making these statements. But you're right, it's absurd.
Yeah.
But Rick, I'm sorry.
The Attorney General in Arizona is doing a tour of the state, soliciting viewpoints on the merger between Albertsons and Kroger. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the concern right now from the Attorney General in the state of Arizona is not about the governor's spokeswoman soliciting violence and calling for people to use violence to fight back against their political enemies. This is a real dire situation. If we have another attack on a Christian school, it is literally not too much to say that the governor of Arizona is giving aid and comfort to those people who want to go and shoot up and make violence. There is no other interpretation. Where is the media in Arizona? Where is the condemnation? This woman who tweeted this must get fired. Katie Hobbs, the governor, must immediately fire this. We are not a nation that tries to push violence against political opponents. This is outrageous.
And the victim blaming, it's the 9-year-old kid's fault for going to that Christian school that they got killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the narrative that they're trying to put out. And so, and we hear with Merrick Garland, we played that sound. I can't come to. Have you even opened an investigation into it? No, we can't do that until we know the conclusion. But that's not. But the purpose of investigation is to find out, not to wait till there's a conclusion.
And of course, it's not the trans community coming out and saying this. It's a press secretary of a governor. We had a trans caller in the last segment who said this does not represent my community. And I think that is an important part that needs to play into this. This is the point where you start talking about this, saying we're not going to be people who just call for violence because you disagree with someone's point of view, or they're Or you don't even know these people. That's all I'm saying. No one knows. This is a very nuanced issue within the faith.
It's a
right.
church.
This is a Christian school. That, by the way, probably a lot of kids that go there, our parents probably may not be of faith. It's not
and
always.
Even if they are, we don't know their politics.
If you're in preschool, a lot of people go to church preschool who have nothing to do with the religion. Yeah, you don't know the politics of the parents. In that area of Nashville, it's not the reddest of red areas by any means. So this is also a time to say, you know what? Also, we're not going to let the governor of Arizona's press secretary speak for an entire community. Now it's time for that community to answer as well. And
Rick, the problem is, I think is who's going to give that voice? Are we allowed on our show? We did, but it feels like the left, that's not the narrative they want out on this shooting. The narrative they want out of the shooting is blaming Republicans and blaming conservatives for questioning anything.
And I think this is going to get worse. And this is going to get worse because we've got people like the media in Arizona who are unwilling to call this out when it happens. You've got someone in the governor's office literally saying, here's a red line. We're going to start shooting if we don't get our way. You've got the media not saying anything. And so they're take one interpretation in the governor's office in Arizona, which is we did the right thing because the media is not condemning us. And maybe we should go further. That's what they're saying.
Hey, Rick, we actually have breaking news with that. And that is that Governor Hobbs' office has confirmed that spokesperson Jocelyn Berry, we're going to put it in quotes, though it's not in quotes, I'll put it in air quotes, ironic quotes, has resigned. And the resignation was accepted. So at least there is some, justice is the wrong word, but at least something was done in this situation. So a bit of I don't want to say a win because that's a horrible thing to say, but at least someone's being held accountable for such horrible action. So again, Jocelyn Berry, who've been talking about,
of course, they allow her to resign.
Resigned.
They didn't fire her.
We all know what that means, though, Rick.
Yes,
but hey,
but it'd be nice if they actually used the language of fired because of what was done here. But I mean, again, Rick, I want to jump to one other issue because I think it ties into all of this too. It's the administration. Whether it's Mayorkas yesterday basically admitting to being an open borders guy, which all the senators have now said, we can yell at him all we want, call for him to resign and impeach. He's playing the lineup of exactly what the Biden administration wants. He totally disagrees with us. He is pro open borders. Dick Durbin's blaming Americans for the fentanyl crisis when we know it's emanating from China and Latin America. But also the violence and uptick we've seen against our own troops in Syria, and now this new partnership, which is so scary, between Iran and Saudi Arabia, when we were making great progress in building an even better, which was a good relationship with Saudi Arabia, and turning it even to a better one, and now they're uniting with their religious enemies.
Look, I have to be very clear on this, is that I don't think it's a coincidence that Joe Biden is condemning Israel, Bibi Netanyahu's government right now, at the same time as allowing the Iranians to bully us, to shoot and kill Americans without immediately stopping negotiations with Iran, isolating them, going back to the policies where the world said this is a regime that is not responsible and therefore we must isolate.
This to me, this idea of trying to negotiate, trying to figure out, whether it's the regime and what's the way out? I mean, I think that's what people are looking for. Is they're just realizing that we're even fighting still in Syria to keep ISIS under wraps so it doesn't blow up again. And we've got 900 troops and CIA and contractors there. We've got a base up in northeast Syria. Now it's been under attack. But what is the way? Can this be corrected if we got a different administration in? Because we're all about to go through another presidential election cycle. It's happening as we speak. Yeah. Can we get this corrected?
Yeah, for sure we can. I think I know the power of diplomacy. I know the power of peace through strength. But inherent in the idea of peace through strength is you've got to have strength and you've got to have peace. You got to have paths on both of them. If you want peace through strength, of course you have to have a very strong Pentagon, a very strong military, and you have to have a president who is believable when using a credible threat of military action. It needs to be somebody who not only has that credible threat taken seriously, but has demonstrated that they know how to use the power very strategically. At the same time, not separate, but at the same time. You need a powerful State Department that is talking to our enemies and others, so that you're able to have peaceful talks. Look, I'm not for a weak proposal, but I am for peace agreements where we make it very clear what the American policy is.
Rick, as always, we appreciate all of your insight into this, because I mean, Rick, before his intel work, foreign ambassador, was a press secretary for the United States too. I mean, so talking about all these issues and how important it is when you're in that role, what you say matters. And yes, we've seen this press secretary get to resign. I'm sure they were forced out, but as I retweeted the article so you could go to my Twitter and see it. This time around, they should have used the word fired. Don't let him just resign, even if you did actually fire him.